Hello, and welcome to episode 457 of Love at First Scent with me, who cannot keep this up much longer. What do you think of the costume? Fear not. It's not going to be Sting. I can't keep this up for the whole thing. We have thank you very much for tuning into episode 450. I'm glad Rachel approves of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, where in case you hadn't figured it out, we're going to be doing a very, very, very light-hearted thing today. After I kind of do a little bit of a routine here, I bet you didn't think it was going to be this kind of a video, did you? Right. That's much better. Yes. Okay. Let's stick with the X-Men 97 t-shirt. First comment goes to Jeff, who just says lo and behold, but then kind of spoils it a little bit later on when he says, as a DC fanboy, I'm deeply disappointed. We might have to have the Marvel versus DC debate a little bit later on. But anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, this video is not going to make you do it. But you find myself having said this a few times before, but every now and then, every few months or so, we decide that we do really need to do something super lighthearted and super fun and also super geeky. And I thought I would take my inspiration from the fact that the X-Men animated series is back and it's doing remarkably well. It's been back for a few episodes. I never even really watched the original, but I must confess that I have seen a few episodes of the new series, which is, I think, on the Disney channels, on Disney Plus. They're calling it X-Men 97. And it reminds me of how much I used to enjoy reading the X-Men in the 90s. X-Men was probably the only comic that I read fairly regularly, fairly religiously. And there was just something about the tone of the series and the tone of the artwork, and I think also actually literally something about a lot of the plot lines that has taken me straight back into that 90s mode. And this is not purely self-indulgent. A huge number of people actually got in touch after, what is it that made what yes, I think I posted a picture of this t-shirt on Instagram, didn't I? And a surprising number of people got in touch, but privately. They didn't want to make it known, all you closet X-Men fans out there or closet comic book fans. So many people got in touch and said, why don't you do an X-Men top 10? And at first I dismissed the idea, but then afterwards, of course, I couldn't switch my brain off from thinking about it, and I thought that's actually not a bad idea for a video, to take one of the to take the X-Men superpowers and think, okay, what would be a perfume that would represent that superpower? So that is what we are doing today. Lots of comments already. Raphael says, holy bleep, this is going to be great. Well, superpower perfumes, right? The whole thing about superpowers and perfumes, or perfumes giving you special abilities, is a very, very, very well-worn marketing trope. One Charlotte Tilbury, with her latest collection, I believe, of 5 scents, is very much pushing the idea that her perfumes are going to give you special powers and special abilities. I have samples of them actually, and I want to try them. I have to try them and give them the benefit of the doubt, because they have been made by the likes of Anne Flippo and Dominique Ropion. So yes, we're not reinventing the wheel here, but obviously this is my interpretation of which perfumes best represent the superpowers. Musk in Heaven says this intro is going to make you subscribe. Maybe. Mystique would wear a diptyque. Very, very good. We don't have Mystique. I had to be really, really careful. I've gone with the ones who are in the X-Men 97 series, and I have allowed myself to do a +2 because I had to do a +2. So we've got 10 +2. X-Men are the robot ones, right? Says Tom King. No, the X-Men are mutants. So they're the ones who are born with their powers. But let's not get too geeky. LJK says, in the UK in the mid-80s, they reprinted the original series with Jack Kirby. I was into comics when they were severely uncool. Well, comics have always been sort of like cool stroke uncool, haven't they? Gavin says, is Afternoon of the Fawn Wolverine? Interesting. Rachel says, I'm going to have no idea who these characters are. You have gone up in my estimation even more, Rachel. So along for the fun, and I'll learn as we go. Okay. So The focus, as I said, is mainly on their actual superpowers, because that then will at least make some of the content of this video accessible to everybody, even if you don't know what the characters' personalities are meant to be. There is a nod to their personalities as well, but I focused on the superpowers. And I think we need to start, because it's been 5 minutes and all I've been doing is rabbiting on. Do you like my little Lego Wolverine? Finally, he's managed to have an outing on one of the videos. So I think we need to kind of start light, because there are some that get very, very, very heavy and very, very superpower-ish. We're going to start with Nightcrawler, always one of my favorite characters. You don't really need to know a huge amount about him. If you do know something about the characters, though, please do chip in with your suggestions. Nightcrawler's superpower is that he can teleport. He is a teleporter, and he disappears in a puff of fire and brimstone. There is something devilish about his appearance as well, and he can literally just puff himself from one place to the next over fairly long distances. And so that is the inspiration for this one. Also taking a bit of inspiration from the fact that he has been often throughout his life taken as a devil. He's completely blue-skinned, and he's got rather an unusual appearance. So played by Alan Cumming, says as Gavin Dabber. Yeah, in the films, he was very, very well played by Alan Cumming. So we are going with L'Artisan Parfumeur. Start with something a bit light. Passage d'Enfer, because this references hell in its name. It's the name of a street, but also passageway to hell. When Nightcrawler teleports, you get the smell of brimstone, and also this is a frankincense composition, so that kind of heaven and hell thing is completely intrinsic to the scent. And there is something, I think, transporting about it. Just go with me on that one, okay? There is something transporting about this scent. There is something teleporting about this scent. And so, is this about compliment getters, says Space Dad. Why? So, let's all have a smell of this one. Get serious now. Passage d'Enfer is from 1999, composed by Olivia Jacobetti. Rachel says, nice, going through a bit of an L'Artisan era lately. Gavin says, Wikipedia says Nightcrawler is a Catholic. Gosh, I'm glad that Wikipedia is up to speed with the X-Men's religious affiliations. Maybe that's been a thing in some of the storylines, but that makes it even better, right? The fact that I've gone for frankincense. So, Passage d'Enfer is one of my favorite. Look, it's one of my favorite frankincense compositions. This is, I suppose, this now counts as a vintage bottle. I mean, obviously, you don't get it in this bottle anymore. It is still part of the current L'Artisan collection, and they also, a couple of years ago, I think, came out with an extreme version, which is fine. I suppose by modern tastes, by current tastes, Passage d'Enfer is a little bit too light, a little bit too quiet, but I think that's part of its point. It transports, right? It comes and it goes. Oh, Joao says, I wonder what Beast's perfume will be. We will get there, but remember, it's the superpower. This is a very, 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 very Olivia Jacobetti take on frankincense. And what I mean by that is that it is haunting, it's mysterious, it's a kind of scent that you would catch on the wind, and it's also extremely mineralic and flinty. She really went through a phase of enjoying exploring those sorts of, well, mineralic notes, I suppose. There's something saline about it. There's something very, very stone-like, very, very convincingly churchy. You kind of feel that if you scraped away a little bit of the stone structure of an old Gothic church and you kind of ground it into a powder, this would be the smell of it, I think. It is very, very special. And the very definition, I think, as well, of a skin scent. I know that term is kind of losing the meaning that we had originally ascribed to it. but this is it. This is a proper skin scent. Raphael says, in Incident Diplomatique for Beast for sure. I don't know that one. Who makes that perfume? I'm not aware of that one at all. Passage is beautiful, says Smaranda. I'm glad you agree. Roald Amundsen would wear Passage d'Enfer on his mission, says Dushan. Now, if that's a reference to an X-Men character, then I don't get it. Is that like somebody's real name or something? Smaranda says it's like an ethereal frankincense. Thank you. That's the best word for it. It is very, very, very ethereal. Okay, so we are one down. That means we are off to a good start. Let us go. What have I got? Number 2. This is already when it starts getting a little bit heavier. Now, a very, very, very popular X-Men character. There you go. There she is, Storm. Storm's superpower is that she can control the elements and she can control the weather. And by the way, I am a little bit of a comic book geek, but I'm not a full-on, full-out comic book geek. I haven't bought a comic book for at least 20-something years. And where I'm going with this is that if I get any of the superpowers wrong, or if I don't get them exactly right, and if you out there are geekier than I am about these things, please feel free to step in. I'm probably going to offend lots and lots of comic book fans. Do X-Men fans have a collective name? Like Star Trek fans are Trekkies, aren't they? And Doctor Who fans are meant to be Whovians. Do X-Men fans have I don't know. So Storm controls the weather, controls the elements. She can make it rain. She can raise winds, and she is also at one with nature and with the elements. So for Storm from 1985, this is the current formulation that I have. I would love to smell the vintage of this because it must be really, really good. Composed by Annick Goutal herself. This is Sables from Annick Goutal. Or from Goutal, I should say, in this packaging, in this bottle. Sable, of course, means sands. This is a perfume that was famously inspired by the sort of wild, tempestuous nature of Corsica. It's an Immortelle perfume. I very, very, very nearly went for Immortelle Corse by Parfum d'Empire, but we've got another Parfum d'Empire coming soon. So I thought, okay, let's try to mix up the brands a little bit. But you could have gone for that as well. Let us have a spray. This is a really, really gorgeous Immortelle perfume, and it really does feel as though it's at one with nature, but it's also controlling nature, and it's kicking up a storm. And as I say, it's dramatic and tempestuous. I just smelled this the other day, says Oris Eros. And it is very, very Storm, I think. Very nice choice, says Raphael. I'm glad you agree. Spaced Out says, is Sable similar to Dior Eau Noire in any way? Yes, because of the Immortelle connection. Eau Noire, to me, goes more in a kind of fougere-like lavender licorice direction. Sable, it is good. I think I haven't worn it enough because I think this works particularly well in colder weather, and I haven't worn it enough. Mind you, it's still freezing cold. We went out for a walk earlier today, and my hands were just absolutely frozen. Turn on Tune In Dropout says, Wolverine is Le Lion or I'm out. Remember, it's the superpower. I think you will agree with the one I've gone for Wolverine. It's the superpower. Sable, yes, has got that kind of curried, stewed, fiery, impassioned feel of the Immortelle coming through very, very well. Obviously, inflections as well of coffee and licorice, which the material itself lends itself to, but it's very, very, very naturalistic, and you can hear the waves crashing in this. You can feel the wind blowing in this. You can feel thermals, currents of air rising and falling. It is a storm. It is a storm in a bottle, and I think that's why it's beautiful. Technically, Wolverine should be Magritte, says Gavin. Oh, that's good. I like that. I get it because you're the no. A lot of people forget what Wolverine's superpower is. Look, we are going to get to Wolverine. Wolverine is number 11 on the list, okay? So you're going to have to wait a while. Don't make me keep jumping around. People forget what Wolverine's superpower actually is. They think it's the claws, but it's not. He was not born with them. Rachel says, Violette Nuée Bleu by Nathalie Lawson jumped to mind for A Tempest, as well as Silence the Sea by Laura Miel. Ah, yes, from Strangelove, but I don't know the other one. I don't know the Nathalie Lawson. That sounds really, really good. DMS says regeneration and healing. Thank you. You do know. Self-healing, says City Slacker. There we go. Sables. I love the fact that there are plenty of geeks watching out there. Number 3, actually, I forgot. Number 3 is the Parfum d'Empire. And for number 3, we go to Jubilee. Now, unfortunately, as many things in the comic book world, the gender bias is very much sort of like, slanted towards the boys. But there are quite a few ex-women and ex-girls. Jubilee, I can't show you Jubilee because I'd have to like pull this t-shirt right up. Where's Jubilee? That is Jubilee there. That's Jubilee. Her special power is that she can create and control pyrokinetic energy. So she creates little flames and little lights, and she can do stuff with this energy. So she can kind of create a firework display. Gavin says Jubilee makes me think of Jubilee pancakes from Little Chef. I have not frequented these establishments to which you refer, sir. So for Jubilee, and she's also a kind of sparky, bubbly character. She's a teenager. She always seems to have been a teenager in X-Men. She doesn't seem to have grown up. From Parfum d'Empire, we have Aziyade. Of course, composed by Marc-Antoine Corticchiato, as they all are from this brand. This one is from 2008. Now, why this one? Raphael says Jubilee and Psylocke could maybe share alien Mugler. I haven't got Psylocke. I really liked Psylocke as a character, but she seems to have kind of disappeared. We haven't got Psylocke on this list, and we haven't got Mystique. Maybe we'll, if I haven't been completely kind of, cancelled and shunned by all of you, maybe we'll do some more superheroes in another video. But Aziyade, why Aziyade? Because it's full of fruit and it's full of spice and it's really sparky and fizzy. It's got pomegranate and plum and cumin and nutmeg and cinnamon, and it kind of bursts out at you in these these little mini explosions of spices and fruit going pop, 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 pop all around you, just like what Jubilee does. And it's also bubbly and effervescent and sparky and full of life. Really something of an underrated gem, I think, from Parfum d'Empire. Mind you, a lot of them are underrated gems. Gavin, I've just read your comment saying, I tried Infuse by Acro, suitable for an X-Man whose superpower is making compost. But so I'm guessing you liked it, right? That's a good thing. Rachel says, interesting. It is a good fragrance. Yeah, it is just full of colors, isn't it? It's full of colors and full of life and full of little mini explosions of brightness popping up all over the place. And I think it is thoroughly and totally Jubilee. And it sort of goes with the fact as well that she wears really bright fluorescent colors, and she's always sort of got those huge pink shades. Musk in Heaven says, Infuse is being delivered for me tomorrow. I'll confirm what Gavin said. Okay, please let me know. Sandra says, indeed, Mr. P, I was about to say that Aziyade was underrated too. So comforting in the winter. And Hugo, what was Hugo saying just now? This is my first live of yours. Love your work. Bless. Thank you very much, Hugo. Everybody give Hugo a warm welcome. Where is it that you're watching from, Hugo? And please don't hold it against me that I'm doing a little bit of a silly video. Although kind of, silly stroke not silly. So I'm sort of sorry, not sorry, right? Because if I were a creative director, not that I think this isn't going to be happening anytime soon. If I were a creative director, I would definitely have like a superhero range, but I'd kind of sneak it in. I'd come up with some highfalutin concept for what the inspiration was behind the scents, but actually really I'd be going, this is my Wolverine perfume, and this is my Psylocke perfume, and this is my Vision perfume, and so on and so forth. Because it must be an interesting brief, right? To think I want you to make a perfume that somehow conveys such and such a superpower. Alessandro Gualtieri for Nasomato overtly did it, didn't he? When he wanted to make the smell of a superhero. What was it? Was it called Silver Musk or something like that? Somebody will help. You'll help me out. It's Silver something. But I didn't much care for the perfume because it really was just a whole load of synthetic musks. And certainly when I wore it, it didn't particularly make me feel like a superhero. Polpo and Musk in Heaven says, was it Phantom Musk? I'm not sure it was. Jeff Sheen says Silver Musk was vile. I'm pretty sure it was Silver Musk because I remember thinking at the time, oh, is it meant to be like the Silver Surfer? Transformers next stream. No, not for a good long while. Not for a good long while. Okay, so that's Jubilee. For number 4, we are going to something very, very recent. Okay, yes, because I thought this fits the bill perfectly. From 2024, this is to go with Gambit. Gambit is right there. He is a gentleman who hails, I believe, from the southern parts of the United States. I think he's from New Orleans. Is that right? Boogie Daddy says, I love all your lists, but this and the Madonna may be my faves. Oh, well, that's good to know. Was worth doing then. I love it when you get cheeky, especially when I take my costume off, right? Perfume is fun and we should have fun with it. Yes, I think we should have fun with it every now and then. Anyway, Gambit. Gambit controls kinetic energy. And he very often has a deck of playing cards, and he can kind of use the playing cards as weapons because he charges them, fires them up with so much kinetic energy that they become like these missiles. And he basically moves stuff. Okay, it's a lot more interesting and more fun in the animated series and in the comic books that I'm selling here. But that is his thing, kinetic energy. And so I thought, well, we need a perfume that has tons and tons of movement in it and really spirits you away and moves you and transports you and just sweeps you off your feet. Raphael says, I wanted to know what you think of Gambit's perfume above even Wolverine. Okay. So Gambit has the goofiest power of any superhero. I'm sorry, but it's true and it's fine, says Allah. Yeah, I know. It's quite hard to describe, but, just like flicking cards and being able to do stuff with cards, it is kind of cool. And the fact that the cards go all purpley pink is kind of cool as well. Anyway, from 2024, composed by Delphine Gelk. Please don't shoot the messenger. This is a very, very expensive perfume, but I do love it. And a lot of people have been in touch with me, actually, to say that they wish it weren't so expensive because they love it too. This is Neroli Plein Sud. And look, it even makes a reference to the South. So I thought, okay, this has got to be Gambit. NPS, says Jeff Sheen. Let's label the blotter. Oh, you're off on a Transformers thing already. I will not be doing the Transformers anytime soon, trust me. Although I did used to buy the Transformers comic as well. To my shame, because that turned out to be a useless comic book to collect. Anyway, Neroli Plein Sud is, yeah, I think when I reviewed it, which was only a few weeks ago, I said that it is a completely, purely, genuinely, convincingly kinetic perfume. It just carries you off, makes you travel. It does so in terms of its structure by way of a sort of cologne spice vibe. So on the one hand, it's very, very, very eau de cologne, very narrowly, very herbal. But the interesting twist is that it's also beautifully, gorgeously spicy, particularly with a strong dose of cinnamon. Tripty says, I imagine Marc-Antoine Barrois could find a couple of mentions here. Ooh, stay tuned, stay tuned. And it does draw you towards heat, but there's also something quite kind of dangerously suave about it, and that fits in with Gambit's personality. Sillage that moves, says Rachel. Yes, that kind of thing where you feel as though the perfume is kind of moving and taking you on a journey. I mean, lots of perfumes do that. Interestingly, I was just smelling something earlier today for a piece that I want to write, and I made a little note in my notebook that the perfume felt quite rigid and static. And that's fine. Some perfumes are like that, but some perfumes are very, very, very kinetic. And I think this is one of them. I could very, very, very easily imagine Gambit wearing it. Claire has just tuned in. Hello, Mr. P and fragrance fans. You're very, very welcome, Claire. Spicy and sparkling, Neroli and cinnamon, says Jeff. Oh, Sandra says, I just don't like the dry down of Neroli Plein. It almost feels mineral, chalk-like on my skin, but I enjoy the opening. Ah, interesting. Okay, that's a shame. I quite like the dry down, but each to their own, right? And let's get to number 5. Ooh, number 5. Also very, very, very much bang up to date. Number 5 is for a character called Morph. Have I got Morph on here? Ah, they haven't actually got Morph on my little t-shirt. Okay, never mind. Morph is one that I'm not particularly familiar with, but he has featured in the animated series, and he can, as his name suggests, morph into anybody, and I think also take on their powers, I believe, which is kind of like, I mean, that would be the coolest thing to have, right? To basically be able to be whoever you want to be. I don't know what the shortcomings of that are, because with the X-Men, there's always an Achilles heel. Oh, Raucous Retread says Gambit is from New Orleans, correct? Thank you very much. But yeah, so we're going with something I thought which plays the sort of gender fluid card very, very well. There are a few perfumes out there that do that. If Dior Homme in its current form were like the original that came out, the Olivier Polge original from earlier this century, feels very funny to say, but you know what I mean. I may have gone for that, but of course that's been changed quite a bit. So we are going with something that I just reviewed on this channel very, very recently. This is called, can you see that? It's called Rendezvous. It's the debut scent from this, oh gosh, what are you doing? All right, try that again. It's the debut scent from a brand. It may be the only scent. It's composed by Antoine Lee. If you would like to find out more about it, then just search for a very recent video. It's a collaboration with a photographer, and this is really embarrassing, whose name completely escapes me now. I think her surname was Steve. Anyway, please check out an earlier video. Morph's real name, says Gavin, is Kevin. Yeah, maybe that's the shortcoming. I don't know. Sorry, that's really, really rude to all the Kevins out there. Sorry, let's spray this, because what makes this perfume fascinating is that it just plays the gender bending role, the gender fluid role so well. The photographer, the woman whose brand it is, said that she wanted to make a woman's perfume that men. Sonia Steve, thank you very much, Christian. Thank you. A woman's perfume that men would like to wear. And I agree that this has similarities with Dior Homme 2005 in style, says Oris. There you go. So you get violet, you get woodiness, you get a lipstick feel, but you get, again, something sort of flinty and woody and more masculine. Really, really fascinating. The way it kind of manages to go straight down the line of gender codes is fascinating. You get the sort of iris, retro, rice paper notes, but also something very, very clean and translucent and contemporary. I think it's one of the most interesting things that Antoine Lee has done for a while. Jasmine says, is it like Neroli Nasimba? No. I mean, that one is a much more sort of all-out Neroli leather. Do you mean Neroli Plein Sud? Sorry, do you mean that one? Well, in which case, actually, no, it's not either. This one is a sort of spicy cologne. Neroli Nasimba from Crivelli is a leathery Neroli. I wonder which X-Man, X-Woman, X-Person, says Rachel, would wear Roque from Roberto Greco. See, I thought of that, but then I thought that's such a, it was a limited edition. I expect it's kind of gone now. I haven't included it in the list. And I try to, wherever possible, suggest things to you that are currently available, even though one of the ones that's coming up, I have a sort of vintage version because it's the vintage that I love. Rendezvous is sold out at Saint-Celier, says Tripty. Oh my goodness. Well, hopefully that's because of all of you and your excellent taste after watching the video going to to order it. Perhaps they'll get some more. I'm sure they'll get some more. Are the materials in this from Remy Pulverai, says Pradeep. I don't know. I have no idea. Perhaps they are. I don't know if Antoine always uses them. Musk in Heaven says, I purchased Rendezvous. Okay, wonderful. Do you like it? Gavin, okay, right. So this is the shortcoming for Morph. His mutation gives him a high metabolism, might be useful, and makes him very hormonal. Okay, so what? So basically they just have to deal with a hell of a lot of emotions, but that could make for some interesting storylines, actually, couldn't it? Mr. P is very kind, says Rachel. Oh dear, what have I done? What? I have my moments, Rachel, but I don't know. Oh, Musk in Heaven says, wasn't a love for me at first sniff. Need to give it some time. Okay, well, do give it some time, but at least you've tried it. At least you tried it. I do really like it. And so does Madame Persolaise. Oh, Gavin is still quoting for us. What's this? Due to his shape-shifting ability, he does not wear any actual clothing, and he takes joy in pointing this out. Okay. Right. Anyway, we have reached number 5, so I'm going to do the +2s, but I should say at this point, at the half-hour mark, that you are watching episode 457 with me, Persolaise, and we are having a little bit of fun today to celebrate the acclaim that has greeted the return of the X-Men animated series, which is now called X-Men 97. We're doing 12 perfumes to go with the superpowers that various of the X-Men, X-Women, X-People have. A tie into the male nudes as well, says Oris. Nice one. That's very good. In case people don't get that, as we found out from Gavin, Morph doesn't actually wear any clothes, and this perfume ties in with the book of male nudes. Subliminally, something was working there, although I've only just found that out about Morph. But yeah, that's a good one. We like it. We like it. Okay, I'm going to do the +2s, and the +2s are Professor X, Charles Xavier, and Magneto. I know that they're both in the animated series, but Magneto is like their sort of arch villain. I won't give any spoilers away, although he's playing a very different kind of role in the current series, and Professor X isn't around much. But we can't sort of talk about the X-Men without talking about them. So for Magneto, now Magneto is one of the most powerful X-Men, one of the most wicked, one of the most evil, but also one of the most conflicted. He can control magnetism, and so basically he can control anything that has any metal in it. In a brilliant, famous sequence in the film that was directed by Bryan Singer, which is still one of my favorite superhero movies. He actually detects that somebody has got a very, very high quantity of iron in their blood, and so he is able to manipulate that as well to grisly and gruesome effect. So if there's anything around that is metallic, he can control it. And that's why, for instance, when people try to apprehend him, they use plastic guns with plastic bullets because he can't control those at all. So I thought a perfume that not only has a metallic feeling note to it, but also has got a kind of magnetic personality. So from 2017, composed by Daniela Andrié, this is Une Amourette from État Libre d'Orange. Look, even the bottle's got a kind of metallic sheen to it. I think this is one of the better of the sort of more recent État Libre entries. Although I say more recent, it's sort of 7 years old now, isn't it? And also a very, 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 very unusual piece of work for Daniela Andrié, because she went through a real phase of seemingly never being able to get away from Iris. And I think Iris is still one of her favorite notes. But this was interesting for her. And also, I think, still one of the best uses of that beloved Givaudan material, Akigala wood, so beloved of Quentin Biche. Akigala wood is a sort of derivative, I think, is it right to say, of patchouli. Was he the one played by Patrick Stewart, says Maudlin? No. Magneto was the one played by Ian McKellen. And then another one of the films, he was played by Michael Fassbender. And Professor X in the first films was played by Patrick Stewart. And then in the other films was played by the guy who was in King of Scotland. Oh, this is really bad. Somebody will help me out. Somebody will help me out. Who played young Professor X? That's really going to bug me. Anyway, Une Amourette. James McAvoy. Thank you very much. I knew that. Anyway, Une Amourette is a very, very, very strange perfume, very, very much dependent on that curious metallic, silvery stroke, borderline off-putting and yet alluring power of Akigala wood. And at the top, it's got, I mean, there's something really, really quite carnal about it as well, and something really, really quite seductive and magnetic, which is why I think it works for Magneto. But yeah, strange as well, and difficult to describe. And I love it when a perfume is difficult to describe, because I'm sure that there is a strong citrusy note. They're doing a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of heavy magnetic lifting, as Magneto likes to do. But also a suggestion for me always of something lipstick-like, which is the kind of seductive element, because he's always been presented as a bit of a sort of seductive character, and the sort of bad boy to Professor X's goody boy. Dushan says, a pitbull saying, I'm from the hood. Contan Beach says, I'm from the Akigala wood. Very good. This one feels very silky to me, says Cynthia. Okay, interesting. But then silk sometimes catches the light in that kind of metallic way, don't you think? Raw silk, that sort of thing. I think it's great. I think it's really, really fascinating. And for Professor X, so I need to get a move on, because we'll have 5 to go still. Now, Professor X, Charles Xavier is the one who founded the X-Men school for did he call it the School for Gifted Youngsters? He is extremely powerful. Basically, he can go into people's minds. He can control people. He can empathize with them. But he is also extremely wise, and he is a very, very, very good teacher, and a very sage guide. And so all of those things for me, I think, come into this Bertrand Duchaufour composition from 2013 from Nila Vermeer's brand, Nila Vermeer Creations. This is Ashoka, which has had many outings on this channel before. It's one of my favorites from the brand. And I think the story of Ashoka goes so well with the idea of Professor X, because it is the story of Ashoka himself, and it's a wonderful example of perfume taking on a narrative journey, because it mirrors Ashoka's journey from brutal, horrific, violent warrior to wise, calm, benevolent, meditative figure. Jeff says, I will never forget the scene where the coin cuts through Professor X's head. Yeah, except it actually didn't. It was somebody else's, right? But he felt it. Yeah, that was. There are lots and lots of wonderful set pieces in the X-Men superhero films, and Ashoka is beautiful. Ashoka as a scent, it's a sort of figgy, irisy sandalwood, beautiful, and very, very naturalistic, convincing smelling sandalwood in the base. And it is serene and calm and tranquil, and you feel that you could learn a lot from it, and you feel it could sort of take you places where maybe your mind hasn't gone before. Love Ashoka, says Rachel. So do I. Well, look, this speaks for itself. For me, that is like mega usage. And so that'll be Charles Xavier's perfume. That's Professor X's perfume. Right, we need to get 5 done in under 20 minutes. So on we go. So we're back into the sort of top 10, although I think we also maybe just need to call it a top 12. So next on the list. Okay, this is where things start getting really, really serious. Next, we have a perfume to go with Beast. What's interesting about the character of Beast, I think he's one of the original X-Men, is that he, in his current guise, and where's Beast? We had Beast here. There you go. You can just about make him out there. Can you see? There's Beast. So in his current guise, he is a blue-skinned, blue-furred beast, although I don't think he's always been like that. And he has got superhuman strength. So proportionally, he has the strength of, an ape or a gorilla, but he is also a genius level scientist. He's like the X-Men's scientist, and he is actually very, very urbane and very civilized and very refined and very polite. And that's what kind of makes him an interesting character. And so this is where, ladies and gents, from 2020, we get our outing for Olivier Polge's Le Lion from Chanel. So it's not Wolverine. I forget who it was that said they wanted this for Wolverine, but I think actually it is Beast, because it is strong, it is animalic, it is powerful, but it is also extremely refined and suave and intelligent. There is you can kind of detect the intellectual processes that have gone into the making of this perfume. I haven't actually smelt it for a while, so I'm going to enjoy this. Chanel have a new exclusive out, which I think some of you have smelt. I haven't smelt it yet. I hope to be able to smell it very, very soon. It's called Comet or Comet. So Le Lion. This stuff is so good. I don't know why I don't wear it more often. I mean, as you can see, I have worn it enough. Thank you, Chanel price hikes, for making us watch every single drop of our Chanels. Le Lion is, I think, one of the best things that Chanel have ever given us. It's certainly one of the best things that Olivier Polge has ever created. It's going to take some beating. So, I'm kind of not holding my breath for Comet to be better than this. I'm sure it'll be interesting, but scents like this come along rarely. It is just like this perfect love child, the love child you didn't know you wanted, of Shalimar and Chanel's own Cuir de Russie and Coromandel. It is an ambery leather with every single thing in perfect balance. The amber facet is beautifully balanced with the animalics and the bitterness of the leathers, the patchouli, and gives this sort of sweeping white chocolate feel to it. Thomas says Comet is definitely not better than Le Lion. Well, I can't report on it. The Chanel exclusives are too expensive for me to even sniff, says CJ. They've had a recent price hike, haven't they? Vintage Antaeus is better than Le Lion, says Duchan. Well, it's totally different, right? I mean, Antaeus is an all-out leather. I wouldn't even compare the two. But yeah, this for me is Beast, because it's got real serious power and animalic growl, and yet it could not be more civilized and humane somehow, because there is something extremely humane about Beast as well, isn't there? Comet sounds like a Chanel version of Après L'Ondée, says Gavin, but with a cut down note list composition. Interesting. So next we go to, this is another big one. We go to this young lady here, who I think hails from Texas, right? This is Rogue. She has one of the sorts of powers that is the reason why I love the X-Men, because they're all so flawed, and their powers generally bring them as much pain as they do glory. Because Rogue, if she touches anybody, she can absorb their superpowers briefly. If she touches, if she holds on to people's flesh long enough, she actually can completely absorb their life force and kill them. And so therein lies the problem. She can never, ever have any direct physical contact, flesh-to-flesh contact with anybody. And she can only touch people through fabric, or through her own flesh. But the sort of flip side of that is that if she briefly touches, I don't know, say Jubilee, then she can absorb Jubilee's powers for a while and use them. So this idea of her being extremely powerful and yet maybe poisonous, because she can suck the life out of you, and just in a way sort of supremely all-powerful. This is our vintage, okay? From 1985, composed by Jean Guichard and Edouard Flechier and a few other people, I think. The one and only Poison from Dior. This is my very, very, very special vintage Esprit de Parfum bottle. So let's have a spray. It's got to be poison for Rogue, hasn't it? Oh, here we go. Where should we pop that? And current poison, you know, I'm happy to recommend current poison as well. But if you can get your hands on a few drops of the vintage, then do it. Jeff says, poison, this is almost always on Mr. P's quirky list. Is it? Is it? Well, I need to watch out for that then. See, because that's one thing that I don't do. I don't look at previous lists because I think, gosh, if I started doing that, then I'd never get anywhere. But if poison has had a few too many outings, then maybe I need to think of another one. I love this stuff so much. See, you would be drawn to this and you would want to touch it. And yet, if you did, you would feel it draining your life force away from you. It is the kind of perfume that you know only certain people can wear, because in most people's cases, I think the perfume wears you rather than you wearing the perfume. I've met a few people in my life who can wear it and have been able to pull it off very well, and on them it has just been beyond magical. We can never have enough poison on lists, says Jeff. Okay, that's fair enough. Few things better than vintage poison, says Eric. Thank you. And I think, oh, Sandra wants to get rid of her vintage poison, says, I have a 1986 bottle of poison if anyone's interested. A bit too much for me, to be honest. But okay, well, I don't know how you can get in touch with each other, but go ahead and exchange contact details. Quite happy for this channel to be a poison enabler. I think when you smell vintage poison, I, at least, am always reminded that, you know, yes, it's huge. Yes, it's a big tuberose. I haven't actually said that it's a massive tuberose with every single bell and whistle that you could think of a tuberose having. It's got, you know, the kind of candied, syrupy fruit, tons and tons of spices, a very, very sort of strong plum note, a strong carnation note, a massive rose note, tons and tons of musks. I mean, it is ginormous. You know, this thing is huge. But it is also really heartbreakingly beautifully smooth. Everything is also gorgeously balanced and in so perfectly proportioned, and you get just a heartbreaking powdery note that shoots through everything. You know, it got a reputation for being harsh, but I don't think it is. It's just genius. It is I think one of the best things ever made. Certainly one of the best things Dior ever made. Oh, Jeff says, good old Trucizna. Well done. Yeah. Big Kool-Aid grape note, says Gavin. Well, that's not a bad thing, is it? Oh, I love it. And this would be Rogue. So we are down to our last three. And I've kind of left these for the last three because the perfumes are pretty big, and also the characters are pretty big. So let's go Jean Grey next. Now, Jean Grey is the sort of wife, longtime companion. She is this lady here of Cyclops, the sort of self-appointed leader of the X-Men, or is he self-appointed or Professor X appointed? But Jean Grey has also at times become the Phoenix, one of the most powerful characters ever to have appeared in the X-Men stories. Just this unstoppable force of nature who can, I mean, she can kind of pretty much do everything. She can bend people to her will. She can go into people's minds. She can control them. She can do telekinesis and levitation, and she becomes the power also threatens to overwhelm her, and it's something that she has to learn to control. And sometimes, comic book fans will correct me on this, sometimes it has actually taken over her and she's turned into the so-called Dark Phoenix and sort of gone off to the other side of the cosmos and abandoned the X-Men. So this has got to be something really huge, really dark, really dangerous, really potent. You know, one of those nothing tops this type of scents. Did you channel a particular superhero while running, says Smarks. No, is the simple answer. She kind of turns into a black hole, says Gavin. Yes. And had this scent still been in wide circulation, I would have gone for Vero Kern's Onda, Vero Profumo's Onda, which I've always described as a kind of black hole perfume. I don't know what's happening with that line. I know that some of the scents, I think, are being brought back by an Italian distributor, I want to say. but I wanted to go for something more readily available. So Jeff, you've got it. That is exactly what I went for. I have gone for Frédéric Mal's The Night, or Alleil, composed by Dominique Ropion, for Phoenix, or the Dark Phoenix, because this is just like, this is why I've sort of saved this for the end. And we'll do one spray, I think, of The Night. And I think that can take pride of place next to Poison, because they're definitely cousins there in terms of potency. So The Night, for those of you who don't know, is Frédéric Mal's all-out oud. Oh, this stuff is so good. I really, really, really love it. It is kind of like he and Dominique Ropion thought, okay, let's take Portrait of a Lady and let's go with the fact that so many people have thought that it has oud in it, and let us actually put oud in it. Because when Portrait of a Lady first came out, a lot of people, because it had this very, very pronounced Arabian rose patchouli thing happening in it, a lot of people said, oh, has it got oud? And Frédéric Mal himself said, no, there is no oud. But then when they wanted to do an oud, when they finally decided it was time to do an oud, they took the structure of Portrait of a Lady. So what is it? It is a huge, massive, musky, patchouli, spicy, saffrony rose with a really, really good dose of oud in it. And so it is a black hole in a perfume. Shame Frédéric Mal has left his brand, says Spaced Out. Yeah, I was wondering if that would come up. I don't know any more details about that, by the way. Did he say that he's staying until the end of June? And I don't expect I will learn more details. We'll just have to see what happens with all of that. But yeah, the night is completely overpowering and overwhelming. Next, we get to Wolverine. And this is actually our oldest perfume on the list. Now, Wolverine was tricky because obviously Wolverine is known for his adamantium claws, but his adamantium skeleton was put into him by some conniving forces, because these people had worked out that he has got the power to heal and to regenerate, which meant that he can withstand really, really brutal and horrible medical procedures. So they thought, well, if anybody's going to be able to withstand having their skeleton laced with adamantium, it would be somebody like Wolverine. Rachel says, would love to read a series of comics written entirely by women and see our fears and insecurities turned into powers. Yeah, yes, good point, actually. I mean, I'm sure there must be comic books written more by women now. There must be. And I need to ask my best friend, who's a proper comic book geek, about that. Yeah, but that's yes, we should. But anyway, but Wolverine's actual power is constant regeneration, constant healing, but he has got this kind of animalic side to him. By the way, did you notice that for today's episode, I deliberately haven't shaved just to do a little bit of sort of Wolverine action for you? I've got the hairy arm, so I thought, may as well do this as well. So, and Wolverine has got a kind of suave, seductive, gruff, bad boy side to him. So, from 1951, composed by the one and only Edmond Rudnitska, we have got the first perfume from Hermès. This is their Eau D'Hermes. There you go. You should be able to see its name there. Let's have a spray. Now this is this has got a proper slug of civet in there, which I think ties in with Wolverine's powers and personality and abilities. But it's also Maudlin is appreciating my commitment. Yeah, I think this counts as commitment, doesn't it? Not shaving is a commitment. Is this a current bottle, says Mache? It's old-ish. I mean, I don't think it's vintage. I've shown this bottle on this channel before because look, on the side, I mean, I bought it quite a few years ago. On the side of the box, you can see that they've stuck over the sort of modern ingredients list on what was there before. But I think the fact that it's got this cap gives it away as being somewhat older. So yeah, this is the perfume that just keeps going. And it's got It's got that kind of suave, cool feel to it. It's got that kind of animalic funk and power to it. Um, and it's extremely long lasting, which is kind of my nod to the regeneration, because I was thinking, and otherwise we could have kind of gone with a perfume that just never stops, something like the saffron one from Parle-moi de Parfum. But I wanted something that would have a little bit of um a funk to it. So that's Wolverine. And finally, we have Cyclops. But this isn't because Cyclops is particularly my favorite character, or because I think he is the most interesting of the X-Men. I mean, he seems to have come into that Cyclops. He seems to have come into his own in the current series. But I've saved him for the end just because this particular perfume is another one of those black hole ones. And I know that if I, once I spray this, I will not be able to smell anything else for a while. Cyclops' power. Cyclops probably smells like disappointment, says DMS. Why? Why? Cyclops' power is that I mean, imagine, and a lot of the X-Men, okay, this is where the subtext of the X-Men comes into it. A lot of them start displaying their powers during adolescence, when they start going through puberty. So poor Cyclops, he discovered that he shoots deadly lethal beams of energy from his eyes, which he cannot control. The only way he can control them is if he closes his eyes. So fortunately, imagine, so that means he's literally blinded because he can't see anything. But then when he was taken into the School for Gifted Youngsters by Professor X, the good professor gave him this visor, which actually then enables him to control these beams. So he can press a button and actually use these beams as a weapon for good. And also it means he can see a bit more, although I think he doesn't see color. Mache says Cyclops doesn't exactly shoot lasers. His eyes are portals to a dimension of pure energy. Is that right, or are you just making that? Is that actually what his power is? Because I'm going to go along with that one. His power is laser eye surgery. Very good. So for Cyclops, we are going a perfume that, you cannot kind of, once you release it, that's it. There is no stamping this thing down. From 2019, we had to have a Content Biche here, didn't we? This is from the brand Marc-Antoine Barrois. This is, of course, Ganymede, the absolutely unstoppable Ganymede. I'm almost scared to spray this. Just imagine if, like, Cyclops and Jean Grey Phoenix walked into the room. Monsieur Akigala Wood, I wish Freud was around to read these, says Rachel. Oh, I know. I mean, comic books have never been more Freudian, I think. But I think that's why I like, oh God, this stuff. Ganymede is just insane, isn't it? As a perfume. Spray it on the blotter with the night. No, I'm not going to do that. So how do you even begin to describe Ganymede? I mean, okay, I think I have to start by describing it in terms of its effect. It is huge. It has got nuclear sillage. It lasts forever and a day. But in terms of its smell, yeah, it is that massive Akigala wood note. It's a kind of astronomical leather, but it's kind of green. It's kind of mineralic. It's kind of floral. Very, very, very difficult to describe. I mean, I suppose leather is your sort of way into it, to understanding it, but it is so much more than a leather. There's something weirdly green rhubarby about it as well. Very, very, very unusual scent. And a lot of people, I think, in the industry are already saying that this is going to go down as a modern classic, because it is just so different, and it really shows Quentin Biche and Marc-Antoine Barrois having created something that we genuinely hadn't had before. And so there we are. Please excuse the levity. Normal service will be resumed as soon as possible. But I hope you have found this at least enjoyable and fun on some level. So there you go. Pick your superpower and have a perfume to go with it. Thank you very, very, very much for watching. Thanks for putting up with this. I'm going to put the costume back on. By the way, I should have said, when the reason I have some of these costumes is because there are grandchildren in the family, okay? In case anybody's thinking that maybe this is like what Madame Persolaise buys for me for Valentine's Day and says, will you be Wolverine today? No, I have a collection now, because when it comes to various birthday parties, I have requests for dressing up. That's my official line. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned to social media for info about new videos coming your way, and I will see you soon. Enjoy your superpower. Bye.